my first question is this. Now that you look back at this film, some
Which film?
Asrar ganj dareheye jenni,
Yes.
Mysteries of the Ghost Valley that we are going to show, and you look back at it after the events that you basically predicted in the film have already happened. The explosion has come. What is your sense of how the film should be viewed today?
Well, in the right order, to begin with, I very with difficulty I hear your voice. If you can elevate the volume,
Yes.
let's hear you better. That's one thing. I have not seen this film for a very, very, very long time. Very long time. Very long time. Well, I don't know why, but possibly because 3 or 4 of other my films were more in demand or shown or something like that. But this one really, I cannot go, if I go back to something like 6, 7, 8 years, I would hardly remember I had seen it. But it's all right, but I can remember it. Yes. So, what is the question?
So the question is, the explosion that you show at the end of the film, that happens, has in a sense happened. Iran has experienced the explosion that you predicted at the height of the Shah's modernization. Now, 37 years later, you look back at these developments. How do you see the film in terms of how and why it was accurate?
Well, may I correct, very sorry to use this word, may I correct you? There is the explosion at the end of the film is the result of the work of people with whose pictures, with whose faces, with whose walking the film begins. These are the team of the surveyors who have come to make new roads. Do not forget that.
Right.
They have come to map out the place to connect this environment to accessible communications, accessible transportation. Therefore, this is the meaning of the thing. They begin with mapping. He said, put the tripod here, the theodolite here. This is the beginning, and at the end, the theodolite, the mapping out, everything is finished. Now they are exposing the rocks or whatever it is to make the road. It is the question of the road. It is the question of attachment, in a way, connection with the other centers of civilization. That it takes this village from out of its solitude or isolation or whatever you may call it. Well, today I sent you the discussion that I had some 40 years ago. I suppose this was in 1975, 75, I think. I had talked with the Qabiz Farroqi, and I sent you the text of the conversation which he had composed from he downloaded from the recording, and it was typed by the typists of the BBC, because he at the time was working at the BBC, for the BBC here in London. Well, in that, I have also emphasized that that film was not about the Shah. Well, it was about the Shah. The Shah was an element in it, but it was about the whole place. It is a very stupid situation, really. There are now people crying, weeping for the dismissal of Mossadegh. But look at the thing from closer. I was in it. I was seeing it, the whole thing from very close. And I was seeing the whole thing through the lenses of my camera. And I had made pictures, films of that. Mossadegh was a very nice person. He was the better or the best son of his time, but he was not quite in an understanding mood of what was going on. He wanted to cut off the hands of the British oil company or the British imperialism. So far, so good. But he had no means of doing that. The people who were with him, really, it is unbelievable. You just, the name is known. You put them down and see, which none of them had any idea of the world of the day. That state of affairs lingered on. It is lingering on. Very recently, we can see that by the problems that are happening, people are beginning to realize what is going on in the world. Do they have enough power or enough brain? That is the important point, to counteract the plans of the world's so-called enemies. This is what is going on now. So talking about the Shah, Mossadegh, and putting them in this rank, in that line, in that position, according to your own desires, not right judgment, is not right. So the film was not about the Shah. The Shah was a big element in the whole story. The film was about when you see, you hear the personalities in that story, you see that nobody is really saying something sensible. They are all romantic or greedy or stupid or attached to the past, to the very bad ideas of the past. The only person which is a little bit with it, with the spirit of time, is the painter at the end. Throughout the story, all advice is given to the two women. When the camera goes to various places, it is just it looks a very limited, narrow vision of the world. I see it now exactly as I had seen it before. I have no reason to believe that I was wrong in my assessment. In actual fact, I have every reason to see that I was right. At the very end of the story, as written in the book of it, somebody is the painter, looks back, they are leaving the destroyed big monument and all those sorts of things, and he sees the bulldozers. The bulldozers are still at work, and their blades, the metallic blade that cuts and removes the dirt, shines in the sun at a distance. But the painter knows that from close, it is from afar, but from close, the blades are broken, dirty, not symbols of cleanliness, not symbols of real power of cutting and removal of the dirt. This is exactly it. This is exactly it. So there is no reason for me to say that I was wrong. No, I was right.
You were right. So let me ask this question. Because the common view of the film is that it's very critical of the Shah. Regardless of how you see it, the common reading is that. Why is it that the Islamic Republic has never allowed the film to be shown?
Well, ask them. Why ask me?
You have any guesses?
No, there is no point in my guessing. There are lots of guesses. Yes. Somebody doesn't like me. Somebody misinterprets me. Somebody does not understand the situation. Just look at this. I do not want to get involved in personalities, but the newspaper, which is the mouthpiece of the Rahbar, however they call well, they have written, the man wrote an article specifically to attack those people who even mention me. Well, possibly they want me to work for them or with them. I can't. For many reasons, not just for one reason. To begin with, I cannot accept. I know that they have done a good job, or situation brought about conditions for them to do something which could only be mentioned as good job. Yes, but the good job is not followed. It is, they are following in their own lines, but the line was wrong. It is still wrong. Look, why should آقای Mr. خامنه‌ای be called مقام معظم رهبری? You don't say مقام معظم پیغمبر اسلام. You don't say مقام معظم نخست وزیر. Why should we, of all the peoples of the world, of all the languages of the world, we should pump up the majestic position of the fellow who is there, soi-disant, somehow directing. He cannot direct. Not that he has no power. No, a person, if directs according to his own mentality, well, it doesn't go with the idea of democracy or justice or even the interpretation of Islam. Because of this, I cannot work there. There is no point for my knocking at their door and asking them, please let me in. I'm not going. There is no need for me to ask, let them in, let me in. No. Well, that's it. Why they are against me? Well, this is my interpretation. Ask them why you are against him.
Well,
that's it.
My guess is that the image you give in the film of the clergy in that village is as critical as anybody else. I mean, the clergy is no better and no worse than all of the other sycophants around this.
Dear Mr. Milani, only the prophet was chosen by God. Only him. That's according to their interpretation. Only he was chosen by God. Nobody else is chosen by God, because nobody else is ma'soom. They make mistakes. They have made mistakes. Continuously they have made mistakes. No, it is not a question of really laughing at them or belittling them. That's how it is. They are simple human beings. Perhaps they have read fully and deeply and comprehensively their books about how to buy, how to make the wuzu, how to stand to read the prayer. All of these things, they have things that they have read were written hundreds of years ago. Things have changed. Things are changing rapidly all the time. Essentials are changing. How could they say that according to the holy book, the earth, the world has stages, has floors, while as kind of general knowledge, they know that the world is global. This is it. They are sticking to what was said. 14 centuries ago. Well, it doesn't go with what has been found recently. Not recently, when the fellow went, this is a story, it is written, it is part of the classical literature of our country. A fellow goes to the court of Sultan Mahmud Ghazali and says, "Sire, it is very difficult for us to go fasting in the month of Ramadan because the day in the place where I come from is 20 hours long." Well, people laugh at him. But one person who is not laughing at him asks, "Where do you live?" And by finding out where he is, he calculates, he arrives at the knowledge that the world is a globe. It is turning around the sun. It is not the sun that is turning around the earth. All of these things, even these things, are part of history of 1400 years ago. But just because 1450 years ago there was, it is not only for the religion, our history of, they say, Arashana Adil. Well, the man killed 13,000 people one day and hung them from the trees of his garden to when he was like Hitler's Night of the Long Knife. It was a day. He had gathered all the Mazdakis, but Mazdak himself, and he said, "Look, these are your followers, all hanging from the tree." Now, we say that he had hung a bell in front of his castle so that whoever had a complaint could come and bang for the Shah to come over and see what is the matter. Now, the empire was much bigger. It was from Xinjiang of today right up to Beirut and the Dardanelles. This was the empire that was sorry. Now, if somebody has been badly treated, how could he come from Xinjiang, from any place, even from Isfahan? How could they go to Baghdad? And supposing they did, well, for the Shah or for whoever was the source of the tyranny, it was quite easy to place at the turn of the street, like alley. It's just a soldier. So when the man comes in to knock on the bell, he could be arrested, killed off, taken away, and the bell will never chime for the. Anyway, why the Shah could come to listen to the things? And the empire was such a long distances and such a great number of people. Why just one person? I mean, it is silly. It is the mentality of people who live in a small places, in a small villages, who have never seen anything beyond their villages. And at the same time, what about people who were mistreated in South Africa of today, in South America, in Peru of today, in Chile of today, in Argentina of today? Their land was not yet discovered. How could they complain? How could they? It is the whole thing. It has got renewed according to the knowledge of today. You cannot say things. Oh, come on.
So, but let me ask my last question in English. This film is being shown as a part of a festival, Stanford.
Which film?
Your film, The
Yes.
Ghost Valley. The subject of our discussion. It's being shown as a part of a Stanford Festival of films about imperialism. About
What is this show?
when is it? It's tomorrow night
Where?
at Stanford University.
Oh, okay.
And we've been showing a series of films from different countries on the theme of imperialism. And we in Iranian studies decided that your film should be shown. Would you, do you think there is a connection between the Ghost Valley and the question of imperialism, and how, if there is? I mean, I think there is, but I would like to know whether you think there is.
Well, imperialism is an overpowering, all-encompassing element in our lives. Before I was born, imperialism was there, and it is even here, now, today. Whether I see it or not, whether I sense it or not, whether I suffer from it or not, well, we all suffer from it, of course. You just look at what is going on. What happens in Syria. In Syria, they said Assad had used gas. Who says that? Who says that? The money of Qataris and the money of Saudis, they are even just today, it was in the news today, they say we will not participate in any negotiations if Assad is there. As though Assad, they see it the way they behave in their own country. They see if Assad goes, everything will be quiet. And all the multitude of difficulties and tyrannies comes from that man who had been, he looks a civilized person and who had is educated. He's a dentist in England. Well, but it is the imperialism in different shapes and forms that are doing this and that all over the place. The man in North Korea,
Kim Jong-il.
Whatever their name is, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. The man, the young man, the boyish-looking man, well, he is not a man from France or from England or from America. Yes, when the man, McCain, for example, well, we see him in news reels. We see him when he's talking. I don't care about, well, that is my own judgment. He is not a knowledgeable person. He's whatever he says or the likes of him say, it is not the result of their own analysis, their own logic, their own knowledge. They are relying on what is being prepared for them. All kinds of things we are living in today's world. That's how it is. Of course it is. Whether we want it or not, we are being under the umbrella of imperialism. Soviet Union, they were fighting their own version of Western imperialism, but they had also invented their own version of imperialism. Just look at Tajikistan, the country that speaks the language that produced our language, that the first writers and poets of our language were from there. Now, they were forced to cultivate only cotton. That was their job. And when the Union disrupted, they had only cotton to eat, cotton to sell, cotton to wash with, cotton to wear, cotton, nothing else. If they wanted to have a radio or anything else, whatever else, they had to rely on, this is kind of imperialism. This is, yes, it is a means of production for a big economy. But under the umbrella of this big economy, they were being treated as downtrodden, really, as people under imperialistic form of government of the former Soviet Union. 70 years, Soviet Union was talking about this and that, and people, silly people, like Tabari, like Behazin, were repeating what they were saying in Persian. The poets were repeating what they were being told, thinking that they are Marxists. They were not Marxists. They were not even Leninists. They were not even Stalinists. They were under the duress of the force of the ordinary mujiks who were wearing Soviet uniform, who were talking international. But the idea was not internationalist. The idea was not a Marxist justice. But they were living a life more or less like those people who lived in the back alleys of Calcutta. They think that they were following the edicts of Buddha, all brotherhood, and all, like my friend, sea poet, who was thinking of himself as a Buddhist and was
Seperi.
why? It is such a stupid thing. People do that. People look for a bright idea, and they make it their own idea without even evaluating it. Seperi was a very great friend of mine. When he was sick, my wife facilitated his coming to London, and we. This program is not about how I treated Seperi anyway. But, no, it's not about that. But anyway, I have been close to him, and all the time I had this problem with him. What's Buddhism when people are dying of hunger and disease in the back alleys of Calcutta or Kathmandu? Doesn't matter. The idea is wrong. Our perceptions is wrong. We are fashionably opinionated. That is the problem. We are not finding out. We are not analyzing the ideas. We just like this from a distance, and we say, this is a good idea. Imperialism, of course, it has its own backwardness, its own tyranny, its own bad sides, yes. And we are all under it. Of course we are under it. Of course, in that film, I am not attacking anti-imperialism because I am talking about puppets who are working for imperialism, or puppets who are suffering from the rule of imperialism. Willy-nilly, whether you like it or not, it was like that.